what does degrees of openness really mean? Imagine your visual dataset includes a video of a couple being interviewed in their own home. Now compare that to a photograph of a public square with no one recognizable in frame. Should both be treated the same way when it comes to sharing your research data? Actually not, and that's exactly what degrees of openness is about. In visual social research, openness is a spectrum. The practical task is to decide who can access the data and what they are allowed to do with it once they have it. But should visual data be treated as either completely open or completely closed?
Not all visual materials can or should be treated in the same way. Images of public spaces, natural environments, fully anonymized photographs, or non-identifiable settings may be suitable for open access, provided that copyright requirements are met. By contrast, visuals depicting identifiable individuals, private settings, or sensitive situations may require restricted access, access upon request, or may not be shared at all because of privacy issues.
The guiding principle behind degrees of openness is simple. Share visual data as openly as possible and as restricted as necessary. This is how you balance the benefits of open science, such as verifiability, reproducibility, and accessibility, with your participants' rights, intellectual property, and ethical responsibilities. And here's what many researchers get wrong. This decision should not be made only at the end of a project. It should be considered throughout the entire research lifecycle. Visual data may include recognizable elements. Think of a couple in their home, photographs of people celebrating a religious event, medical images depicting a surgical procedure or an affected organ, or video frames showing a person speaking alongside transcribed or subtitled excerpts of their speech. These materials can be easily decontextualized, pulled out, reshared, misread, and this may create risks of harm if shared without appropriate safeguards. In such cases, restricting access and limiting reuse may be the more appropriate approach. Other visual data may present lower privacy risks. So how do you actually apply degrees of openness across your project? In the conceptual phase, before collecting data, ask whether this material could realistically be fully open, partially shared, or restricted. Check for personal information, copyright, and contextual risks early. When writing the data management plan, carrying out informed consent procedures, applying anonymization strategies, and selecting the repository. Do not promise full openness before you know what the data will contain. By the time you reach archiving and preservation phase, openness is operationalized through two dimensions: permitted access and permitted usage. Permitted access asks, who can view the visuals? Everyone? A specific category of users? Only people who submit an access request? Or no one at all? Permitted usage asks different questions. What can users do with the visuals? Can they reuse them for all purposes or only for limited purposes, such as only for research, educational, and non-commercial purposes? Can they modify them, or must they remain unchanged? Together, these two dimensions define the degree of openness. This can range from fully open data, licensed under CC0, CC BY, or CC BY SA, to restricted or closed data with the requirement of a formal request or bilateral agreement. And even when you can't share the visuals, for example, that interview filmed inside someone's home, you can still publish descriptive metadata so that other researchers at least know your dataset exists. Licenses are a tool for defining permitted access and usage. The most widely known are Creative Commons licenses, which can only be applied when access is open to everyone. In all other cases, individual licenses are required. Finally, in the reuse phase, the degree of openness you documented tells a future researcher who can access your material, for which purposes, whether they can modify it, and which uses should be avoided. Beyond the license include guidelines for future data use, such as the original research aims, ethical reflections, consent conditions, and any uses considered inappropriate. Licenses cover the legal copyright conditions. Guidelines cover ethical ones. Together, they help secondary users engage with visual data responsibly and in context. To learn more about degrees of openness, visit codivest.org.